fanboy or anything like that. No.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Hi, Kimmy.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks, Kimmy, for coming back. Hi, Mary. Mary's actually an Aussie. Mary Leather. She's actually an Aussie.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. From Melbourne. So there's a bit of a Melbourne contingency there as well, like from Sydney. Yeah.
How far are you from there, from Melbourne?
So on the plane, it's about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at
that's about like the distance from me for Florida, say. So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. If you look at like Australia on the East Coast, because most of the big states are on the East Coast.
Right.
It's like Brisbane, Sydney, then Melbourne at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then all the other states, they don't really mean anything. No. Yeah. And we always have jokes about Tasmania, which is like an island on the bottom of Australia. So you ever see Australia's map? It's like a little island at the bottom. That's Tasmania. And that's we always make jokes. It's not really part of Australia. Yeah. But we still love them. We still love them. Yeah. Thanks, Tricia. Thanks for joining. Kimmy.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining. This is it's supposed to be like our sort of new show, like The Outsiders. Because
should we explain it a little bit? Maybe we should explain it real quick.
Yeah. You explain it. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So the way we were thinking about this is that like Joe is naturally an outsider, being a non-American, right? So that makes sense. But for me, I'm also like an outsider in the sense that, a lot of the folks who do lives on Substack are people who've been involved in politics for years and years and years. They were either elected or they were advisors or something like that. Yes. And I'm really not. I'm just kind of this person from, right outside Philly, and came to doing this work very late. And so I feel like an outsider too. So
you feel like an outsider as well. Yeah, exactly. And I think also because you're usually behind the scenes, aren't you? So in a way,
a little bit with certain people, yeah. But behind the scenes, right? I'm not usually the out front person. I mean, I do have my Substack, but I don't. I'm not. I'm usually just doing work for other people.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. And obviously, me being sort of an Aussie as well, who talks about American politics.
Like I said, who knows more about it than most Americans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people don't, even in Australia, they don't follow their own politics. It's like, I feel like politics has become, it's so stressful that people want to sort of like tune out of it. I kind of get it. Like, do you remember when Trump won the second time? I think a lot of people just went, you know what?
Yeah.
I've had enough. And
for a few months, everybody was just like, I don't even want to think about it. Yeah.
Everyone sort of tuned out for like a month or two. Yep. It was like a period of like, we can't handle this.
For sure.
And I was thinking, is it? But then I started to notice about a month or two, people slowly coming back, going, oh well,
and then once it got inaugurated,
yeah. I think it was the shock of the second time. Like the first time was a shock because the polling was showing Hillary was going to win. So that's of course going to be a shock because you're not expecting it. Right. And the second one, the polling was very close. It was like 50-50 really. So I wasn't shocked that he won, but just shocked that oh my God, he's going to be in power for another 4 years. Yeah. Please discuss gas prices in Australia, $9 a gallon. It's killing me. Yeah, Mary. It's very expensive.
$9.
Yeah, it's gotten really expensive. It did come down a little bit because we cut the taxes on the excise for the petrol. So the government usually puts a tax on top of it. So they halved that. So that meant it went down in terms of what
a little
we
more
pay.
affordable.
Yeah, but that means that a lot of the taxes, they went towards things like building roads, infrastructure and stuff like that. So it's only been put on hold for 3 months. But yeah, it has had a massive impact. I think it's impacted Australia more than America because you're more you have a lot of oil and gas in the country. You're self-reliant. We're not. We're dependent on oil from the Middle East, which then goes to Singapore, and then from Singapore comes to us. So we're a lot more reliant on it. Which is
more expensive.
Which is why I thought Australia was going to cave and help America a lot more than it actually did. Because we're
Yeah, I
so
remember we
reliant.
talked about that. You were actually kind of
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but diesel prices have also gone up as well. Which is not good for people who live on farms.
No.
It's yeah, and also and fertilizer prices, all that sort of stuff. So it's
That's
had a pretty big impact.
yeah.
Um,
We're seeing that
what do
too.
what did you think about the war, sort of the ceasefire and everything that we're seeing at the moment? Yeah, do you believe it's going to hold? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it already has sort of collapsed, right? Because of the
Mm.
Israelis bombing, continuing to attack Hezbollah, right, in
Yes. Yeah.
Lebanon. So I think that
Yeah.
they sort of thought Hezbollah would be like a carve out, I guess, even though Lebanon was included in the ceasefire. So we're
Yeah.
already sort of seeing some fragility there, at least on the part of Israel.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it was Adam Kinzinger.
Yes.
You did too. You put out a note too, but I saw Adam Kinzinger's was so good, just like talking
Yeah.
about, okay, so here's where we are.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it just it this is what Trump does.
Yes.
He breaks something that was actually working, or
Yes.
at least didn't necessarily, maybe it wasn't working very well, but he makes it
Yeah.
worse,
Yes.
and then he makes it dramatically worse, and then he just decides, well, I'm the big hero because I somehow stopped what I already, when I'm the one who's responsible for starting
Yeah.
it.
He
That's what it
it's like
seems like to me.
he creates a problem, and then he pretends like he wasn't the person who started that problem,
Right.
and then comes in like the savior for that problem.
Yes.
Of he's
Exactly.
like, yeah,
It's
yeah,
the consistent pattern
yeah,
through both of his terms. This is just what he does, and
yeah,
I have to think that's what he probably did in business too, and in life.
yes,
Create a problem. Like he's like you know, what do they say? Like the
yeah. Who
fireman who
puts up the
is,
fire? Yeah,
yeah, who starts the fire just so he can look like the hero to put it out.
put
So
it out. Yeah, yeah,
I sort of see this
yeah.
this way.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I was noticing even on Twitter, people like Benny Morris, they're really hardcore influencers for Trump. Like they're very supportive of Trump, and they still are. But they're actually coming out. You know, the New York Times article that talked about the discussion that was happening between Israel and the United States in terms of the New York Times article went into a lot of detail about what Benjamin Netanyahu was telling Trump
Yeah.
about the threats, and that it was actually going to be very easy to topple the government.
Yeah.
This is the whole New York Times thing. And I was expecting a lot of the influencers to go, New York Times, fake news, fake news. Instead, they're saying things like, "Oh, actually, this." So they still support Trump. They still support the war, but they think that he was pushed into the war by Israel. It's a very interesting thing because these aren't like the far left people or the Tucker Carlsons or that. They're people who are
Mhm.
still very supportive of Trump. They haven't jumped off that, saying that sort of stuff. I'm feeling that they would only do that if they can see the writing on the wall, that
Yes.
they think what's going to happen now is that Israel's going to continue to bomb Lebanon,
Mhm.
or continue, and America's going to distance himself from the war as
Right.
much as it can, and it's
Right.
going to leave Israel on its own. And I think they're setting up for that. Yeah, yeah.
I
And
I think you're
Israel
right.
to take the fall. Israel will take the fall. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly, and I think you're right, and I'll tell you, I read a
yeah,
piece by, Nick Cotagio at the Dispatch a couple of weeks
yeah,
ago,
yeah,
and he said, "Get ready for the right to turn on Israel." Now, we
yeah.
already know
Right.
there's an anti-right, or excuse me, anti-Israel part of the right,
Yes,
you know what I mean? You have, like,
yes.
Ken Owens and Tucker Carlson, so that already existed, but for the most part, the right is very supportive of Israel,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but what Nick is saying is that
yeah,
exactly what you just said, that
yeah,
they can't have Trump look bad.
yeah,
So
yeah,
someone's
yeah,
gotta take the fall, and it's gonna
yeah,
be Israel,
yeah.
which
I
I
think.
honestly wouldn't care because, like, I can't stand Netanyahu either. So, like,
Yeah,
there's part of me that's like, "Well, whatever." But
yeah,
if Trump comes out of it smelling like a rose,
yeah. I
that's
know,
the part I can't.
and it's crazy because on the one hand, they're kind of saying like Trump is a really strong, he's a strong man, But on the other hand, they're saying he was so easily, hi Tamara, he was so easily influenced by that he started a war. Now, it's one thing to be influenced, like, for example, if Bibi was trying to convince him to, I don't know, spend a bit more money for military, all that sort of stuff. I can see that.
Right.
Actually start a war, because we now know that Anthony Blinken, who was working for
Biden.
For Bibi, was working for Biden and then Obama before then. He said that Bibi Netanyahu or Israel tried to get them to start a war with Iran, and they said no. So Anthony Blinken actually said that. Yeah. So
that came out today. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, no, it's been out for a couple of days. It's been out for a while.
I
Yeah,
missed
Anthony
that
Blinken
somehow.
said
There's
that.
so much happening; it's hard to keep up.
I know. So
I missed
quite
that
a big thing, because it's Anthony Blinken. I don't think he would lie about that. And also, Anthony Blinken isn't negative against Israel. He's a big supporter of Israel. So he's not like one of these. He's not like, we're not talking about Tucker Carlson here.
Exactly.
So it shows that Bibi was trying to convince other presidents to do it. They said no, but Trump fell for it. So the whole narrative of Trump is playing like 6D chess, and Trump knows he's the one manipulating everybody, and all that sort of stuff, and it's all BS, because even Joe Biden, I think we can both agree, probably wasn't to the end of his career was in the greatest state of mind, even though we love him. Even he rejected Bibi.
And Biden was very pro-Israel as well.
He was very pro-Israel. Yeah,
exactly. And so,
but they had their limits because they could see what Israel wanted to do. Because they didn't think they could do it on their own. They think they needed help. But it also shows that they never thought it was an imminent threat either, because they probably would have done it if they thought it was an imminent threat. Yeah.
Right. Because then you don't wait. You know what I mean? Then you if you have to protect your people, you do it. But if they didn't see it that way, then they wouldn't have done it. They wanted America to back them up, which, I mean, of course I understand. I mean, like from a perspective of needing more power behind you. But the thing that gets me too, though, now I'm going to lose my train of thought. I was just thinking about some TV again. So with Trump, so we were saying that you're making this comparison that he's MAGA, especially think of him as this very strong man. We actually have a house near us that has this big sign outside with him showing his muscles and all that. Ridiculous, right? And you've seen these things around. So they'll show him sometime as Rocky.
Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they see him that way, but then it's always somebody else's fault.
Yes.
And you have to this is the thing I can never square with folks who think that way.
Yeah.
Is if he is that way, he obviously has a terrible sense of trust, or like a bad sense of people, right? Of like who can be trusted, let's say.
Yeah.
So how do they square that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, do you remember we saw sort of a glimpse of it during the debate with Kamala Harris, when she basically goaded him into losing her mind about the crowd sizes.
Yes.
She did it on purpose. She basically dog walked him through that, and said, as she did it on purpose, and then he went, "Oh, I've got the biggest crowd sizes in the world," and she was like smiling and she was laughing, and like
she was brilliant. She doesn't get enough credit for that debate.
Oh no, that debate, she won that debate.
Easily. She
absolutely won. And
like the four of them.
And I would admit if she lost it. So no, she absolutely won that debate. And the funny thing is, he said after that, he said, the reason I didn't want to have another debate was because if you win the first debate, why would you want to have a second debate? Yet when he had a debate with Joe Biden, 2 hours after the debate, when he was talking about it, he said, "I want to have another one, and then a third one, and a fourth one." So is he saying that he lost against Joe Biden? Because I don't think he lost against Joe Biden.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
No, he certainly didn't. I mean, that was right.
Well, I don't think he won that debate. Joe Biden lost that debate. Like, it wasn't.
Joe Biden lost it, not that Trump won it.
It wasn't because of anything, because of what Trump did. Yeah. He's not a great debate. He's actually not a great debater. And in the first term, the first Joe Biden one in 2020, Joe Biden also beat him back then. So he's actually not a fantastic debater. I think he's good um, when he's doing primaries and there's like 6 or 7 other people and he just like slams them all, especially when he wasn't in power and he had all this stuff against him, like about the war in Iraq and all that sort of stuff. And
especially in 2016 where you had nothing that you could throw at him because he had never been president, or he'd never really held off. He'd never held office before, so there was really nothing you could throw at him. So it made him kind of invincible in 2016. Then 2020, of course, you had everything. You had COVID, all kinds of things. But yeah, though I think that's a good point. I think he does better with friendly fire, like throwing bombs at other Republicans. He actually does better than debating Democrats.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
With the exception of that one Biden debate.
Yeah, exactly. That just shows that, he's so easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of, but I think, I think with the war in Iran, like, I mean, Iran isn't a good country. It's an awful country. You know what I mean? It's a horrible
regime is awful.
Country. Yeah, horrible country. And, I think that there's a big difference between, like, sometimes the other day I was on Substack and I posted something and someone said something like it was a MAGA person. And I'm always open to MAGA people debating. I never block and I never.
No, I don't block anyone either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally I mute people that
I
would
get
just
told to do that. I get
What's
told
that?
to do that, and I get told to block people if they disagree with me. And I just think, why? Like, what's the point? Like,
no, I don't block people either. Occasionally I've muted if they were being really, really, let's say disrespectful.
Yeah, the only time I block is when other people have been offended by what they're saying, and they're like, Joe, if you're gonna continue to let that happen, I can't. And because it wasn't like it wasn't just a disagreement. It was like they were saying, like, for some reason, I wrote an article about Israel or something like that, and they called me. They were saying that I was Jewish, that I was, they were calling me, like really bad names.
Right.
But I was brought up a Catholic. I'm not, but just because I think I defended Israel to some degree somewhere, and they just like, oh no, his guy's like, he's a Zion, or like this sort of stuff, and I didn't come back and say no, I'm not Jewish because I didn't want to give them that. Do you know what I mean? Because then it's like, well, I'm kind of on yours. I didn't want to.
Right. It's like you're saying, no, I don't, like that. That's
exactly. So I
exactly.
But then they started getting really, really offensive. And so then I could understand. So then I blocked those people. But yeah, I think a lot of people think, like someone said to me the other day, was like, oh, well, are you going to compare, because like Iran killed thousands of its own protesters. Obviously that's true. And I said, well, America also killed some of its own protesters. And they came back with, well, that was a couple of people. Iran did it to thousands of people. And I'm like, but I'm not comparing Iran like for like with Iran. Because Iran is a theocratic state that's been a theocratic state for like decades. And America's supposed to be a beacon of democracy. So I'm not saying like America is Iran. I'm saying like America their standards should be no deaths from protests, from protesters,
right.
And also then calling them terrorists is awful. Think about that, because that's what Iran calls their protesters. They call them traitors and they call them terrorists. So a lot of the rhetoric is the same. The outcome is not as brutal because there's not as many people. And obviously there's still more of a free media in America that can sort of like, you know what I mean? But you don't want to open that door to make it to normalizing that, even if it's, you know what I mean? So I never understand the fact that it's like, I'm not saying America is Iran, but I'm saying I think we should have different standards because America's supposed to be like a beacon of democracy. Iran, nobody looks at Iran and says, yeah, we should try to be like Iran. So it's like,
it's funny you say that, because I used to have a similar argument with people 20 years ago when the Abu Ghraib scandal happened at the prison. And I was appalled by it. And I remember having conversations with people who say, like, "Oh, well, this stuff goes on all the time. Other countries do this to us." And I was like,
Uh,
yeah, but we're
yeah,
supposed to have the higher
the
standard.
ground.
We're supposed to
Yeah,
be the model. We're supposed to set the example. And
yes,
so, yeah, we should be held to a higher standard. We can't claim the mantle of the,
yes,
foremost democracy on the planet and then
yes.
not
Live up
act
to it.
like it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Iran. A lot of the excuses people say to bomb Iran is they've always said death to America, which they have said. I actually don't think, but I think a lot of that is rhetoric. To be honest, it's still not a good thing you should be saying, obviously, because you don't know for sure. But I think the evidence shows that they're theocratic. I think there's a difference between. I always go between. Yes, it's an awful regime, theocratic state. However, for the rest of the world, is it a rational, theocratic, brutal state? And I think to some degree there is some rationality in terms of not their own people, but other countries. Like they want to survive. And I'll give you some examples. Like last year with I think it was Operation Hammer, when they American Israel bombed those nuclear sites, and afterwards people are now if they weren't a rational regime that wants to stay in power, right? They would have just gone crazy and bombed everyone. Instead, what they did is they sent out a small handful of ballistic missiles, ranked the countries that they were going to bomb, and said,
Or yeah,
We're, just to let you know, we're about to bomb you." That's not how a irrational suicide state works, you know what I mean? And then it went to its own people and said the opposite. It said to its own people, "We defeated them, we killed them, So there was a story they're telling their own people, which is death to America or we're going to build, and then the story they're telling the rest of the world, it's not really the same thing because,
yeah.
and then on top of that, if you say it's the rhetoric that matters, and I guess rhetoric does matter to some degree, then Trump saying, "I'm going to annihilate, destroy the whole
An entire
of
civilization.
civilization." Well, now you don't have the moral high ground anymore because now you're doing the American version of Death to America, and
Exactly.
so why?
Exactly.
So if and then MAGA says, "Yeah, but he doesn't really mean it." Okay, so how do we know Iran means it? Do you know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
this is the thing. Like, I don't. To be honest, if I had to guess, I would say Iran doesn't mean it, and Trump didn't mean it. Yeah, that would be my fairest take. I don't think either one of them wants to do it. I think it's rhetoric for their own, like, people or whatever.
I think you're right.
But you can't say it's okay. You can't say, "Well, I'm going to bomb this country because they're saying death to America," and then say you're going to do civilization, end of civilization.
Right.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
I agree. I agree. You're putting yourself on
yeah,
that level, and there you've kind of just destroyed all your credibility anyway. And then you
yes.
have, excuse me, you have Hegseth literally basically calling it a holy war.
Oh yeah, I saw that was.
Well, then we are
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
point. We basically are just Iran. How are we any
yeah,
different from Iran if the
yes,
idea is that we're fighting a holy war to impose sort of a white nationalist Christian regime on the United
yes, yeah,
Where
exactly.
they're actually closer to what the Iranian regime is
Yes,
than any other administration that came before,
yeah, yeah,
Democratic
yeah,
or Republican. And that's sort of the ironic thing about all of
yeah,
this.
exactly. It is because when I hear Hegseth talk, he sounds like an Iranian version of an American version of
He
Iran.
sounds
Like
like an American
literally.
Ayatollah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like I feel like Hegseth, Stephen Miller, and people like that, and maybe Trump to some degree, they just want to turn America into a theocratic state, but just instead of a Islamic one, a Christian one. They like
Exactly.
the idea that you
Exactly.
have God behind you and you use God like I was brought up a Catholic, but I'm an atheist now, and so I'm not against religion or anything like that, but I just feel like there needs to be like a separation, and I feel like the separation between church and state, um, and freedom of religion has kind of like gone away from the conversation now in America, where
Mhm.
everything,
Mhm.
if you give a reason, like why would you, like the idea that you would use God and that you had God on your side, like,
Right.
did you have God on your side when you bombed schoolgirls in Iran?
Schoolgirl.
Like, Yeah,
Right.
Was God behind that? I don't know. Like, is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
So it is a
Pretty
very
much.
yeah. I don't remember anyone from Joe Biden's administration talking like that. I don't even remember George Bush administration talking like that. I
I
don't
was
think
just
they
going to
did.
say that. I was just going to
Mm,
say, I mean, I think that there was, I mean, one thing to his credit that George W. Bush did was that he did
yeah.
come out many times and say, even right in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 about,
Yes.
Islam being a religion
Muslims.
of peace and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but even I mean, there was certainly a religious element to that administration too, but I think it was more like, or at least my impression of it was more eh, like the idea of these guys
Yeah.
feeling like they were preying on what they did and all this, which it was more individual, more personal, and not uh like civilizational. Like these
Yeah.
guys make
Right.
it sound civilizational,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a
Exactly. Yeah.
whole different level
Yeah.
than what happened during Bush, that administration, from
Yeah.
my point
Exactly.
of view.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I don't. I mean, Oh, your internet connection. Oh, you're still there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it just came up with your internet connection, but I think it was just a second. I think you're back now. Yeah. 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 It was just
Oh,
two
okay.
seconds. Yeah. Yeah. You turned. You
Oh,
sounded
okay.
like
I
a
have
sort of
on
a
my
Dalek.
boomers, so I don't.
You sound like a You remember Daleks from Doctor
Oh
Who?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that when that happens.
Exterminate, exterminate. Yeah, you sound a bit like. But yeah, I think I was thinking the other day. I was thinking Trump's best quality, his only good quality. It's not even a good quality, but it just stops him from being even worse. Is Tucker? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's often said as a derogatory thing, but it's actually a good thing that he does Tucker
thank
a lot.
God.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right. I kind
With
of agree. I'm like,
Greenland.
why are we taunting him about it? Like,
I know. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, let's
yeah,
just like let him not throw, launch a nuclear bomb or something. Like I kind of agree with you. He does. He always backs down. But
yeah,
that's the thing that's so weird about it. And I saw someone else
yeah.
say, he's not strong at all. He's really not. He
No,
he
no.
creates these battles, tries to act
Yes,
like he's so tough with the language and all, and he pretty
yes,
much always does back out. But like
yeah,
sometimes I feel like he's just trying to manipulate the markets. Like it's really just all a money thing.
yeah. I think it's the markets, but I think it's also he's he's been he's been like a salesman his whole life, and I think one of those sales things is that you ask for the highest amount. Do you know what I mean? And then you negotiate
You
downwards. That's
negotiate down. That's a good point.
yeah.
That's a very good point, Joe. I
I
like
think
that.
that's
That's
what he
true.
does. He thinks I'm just going to ask for the world, but I'll end up with around where I want to go. Um,
Yeah.
so I think there's a little bit. I think sometimes there's a little bit of that happens, but I think he's definitely manipulating the market because every time he does an announcement, like 15 minutes before, there's like hundreds of millions of dollars that it just so happen to be.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm not even kidding. Sorry, excuse my hand
yeah,
there. I just saw come over that Polymarket accounts won
yes,
hundreds of thousands of dollars on this ceasefire deal. I
yeah,
don't know. It
right,
just
really,
feels
yeah,
it's icky to me. I
yeah,
just
yeah.
find that just icky.
Yeah, and it's apparently not even illegal. I don't know if it's
No,
illegal.
I
I
don't
don't know.
think it is.
Yeah,
It's just ethically
but it's incredible that it's not illegal. I feel
right.
like if you're the president, you should not tell everyone around you should not be allowed to, you know, go.
I
I mean, that
agree,
just seems like a.
and
I don't think you can
Congress
do that.
too.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you can't do that in Australia. That's a very strange thing, like, like that. Yeah, the
it's
way
one of
people make.
many systemic things in the United States that need to be reformed. So many.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I think also like for example, the amount of money in American politics is very different to Australian politics.
Yeah.
We don't I think the most a business can pay is $25,000. So if you're a business and you're given to a political party, you could only give $25,000. That's the most. And then the rest yeah, but we also our political campaigns only go for about 3 months, as where yours go for such a long period of time. So,
It doesn't end. We're always in a
yeah,
campaign cycle.
you're always there's
Feels
always
like.
yeah, it's always
Yeah.
the midterms, some special elections, or it's like constantly, yeah, yeah, and that's why someone like Trump, I think Trump's very bad at governing. He doesn't know how to. He does. I don't even think he enjoys governing, but he loves campaigning. That's because the campaigning is all about selling, PR, marketing, all that sort of stuff. As we're governing, he probably thinks it's boring.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
My husband and I have always said, really, what he should have done was taken his rallies on the road, just been a stand-up comedian, making fun of comedians, or making fun of politicians on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
People would have liked him a lot better if he just stuck with that and stayed out of the governing part of it.
Yeah, I don't think he was he that he wasn't like hugely unpopular, was he, before he got into, because he was going like on a lot of talk shows, and they were like treating him well on the talk shows. He was
I
going,
could never stand it, but
he was doing, I didn't,
you're right. He had The Apprentice. People liked it. I mean,
yeah. So I think he and he does treat politics like a reality TV show, I think. Like the other day he said, I think he said it was 8 p.m. was the deadline. I think it was 8 p.m. the deadline, which is like, isn't that like prime time TV time? 8 p.m. So everything is based around ratings and,
right. Or 2 weeks.
Stuff.
2 weeks. Everything's 2 weeks too.
Everything's 2 weeks. He wants to hype. You can never relax in America. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want people feeling relaxed. He wants people like constantly on edge, constantly thinking about. He's turned it into like a dark form of entertainment. And
I agree with you. It's very it's almost like dystopian. Like it and I'll be honest with you, Joe, it feels like that here. There's like a feeling in the air in this country that just feels bad. It just like nobody seems all that happy.
No.
Even the people that are Trump supporters, they just don't seem very happy. I
don't think MAGA's seem that happy either, do they? Like, I don't think they're like over the moon, because they would be suffering economically, wouldn't they? Yeah. I think
I don't think they're just that happy. And I should not group everyone together.
No,
but I think that there are certain MAGA people, and this is probably true for both sides, but like political sides, but they're just never happy. It is just never how they want it. It's never good enough. It's never, and they're just, I don't know, I don't know what to tell you about people like that, but I mean, but there is, to me, a palpable feeling in the country of just misery.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
I'm curious if other people, like, if you could say in the chat, like, are you guys observing that too? Like, does it just feel?
Yeah,
it feels heavy.
Yeah. Someone said it's dumped his fart cloud. Yeah, that's Tamara Johnson. That's why they support him, because he feeds on that. He feeds their anger. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Tamara. Yeah.
I watched an interview earlier with a candidate in Georgia for governor, and he said, let me put it again. It was good. He said that Trump feeds off our despair, makes him more powerful, our despair. And I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think so too. He doesn't want to, he doesn't like, it's like when someone's in a conversation and they can't, and you're hanging out with someone and they don't like silence. I feel like he constantly has to be doing something that's in the news. Whether
that's the narcissist.
Yeah.
He needs constant attention.
Yeah, like posting at 2 a.m. about a celebrity. It'll be constantly.
Right.
And then like he'll just post nonstop about celebrities or whatever. And then and then his MAGA supporters will say he's tirelessly, he's constantly working 24/7. Do you know, they always say, he never stops working. And I'm thinking, if you think like posting about celebrities all night is constantly working, I don't know. We have a different definition of it. But yeah. And the other thing is, they always say, Trump is always talking to journalists, which is true. He does talk to them, but he never answers many questions. So,
he spends more time putting them down. And I'm waiting for the day when some other journalists will stand up for their fellow journalists.
Yes,
like
that's never,
especially when he puts down women. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I just know that at least in our you're around my age, I think, right? So, like, you know, in our generation, there was still, maybe it's less as you go down through the generations, but at least I think our generation and up, there was still a sense that among most men that you defend a woman at least if another guy is being
Yes. Yeah,
a
that's right.
smart aleck or being you know. And the fact that
Yes.
nobody even stands up for these women, I'm just like, oh man,
Yeah.
we're really,
I know.
he's really
It's a
sunk.
very,
Yeah.
you know, it's a very strange thing, and I think, you know, and also they should stand up. They should also be allowed to talk back as well, because if I feel like if someone like when Trump crosses the line from, you know, a relationship with a journalist where they're just asking a question, if they cross the line, they should also be allowed to cross the line and say,
Yeah.
don't call me that. That's
In a
disgusting.
free country, absolutely.
They should be allowed to
Absolutely.
say that, because he's crossed the line first, and he should be, you know, he should be able to come back and say that, and say, you know, they should be allowed to. And I feel like they feel like if they do, they're being unprofessional, and you know, and therefore, or they'll lose access to, you know, to talking to him. Yeah, but yeah, Melissa, I think you can forget about journalists standing up for one another. Natalie, oh really? Yeah.
I did see someone say though that there was someone that have pushed back this past weekend who said that. Len, thank you, Len. I did not know that. That's good to know.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be good if that actually happened more often. I mean, I just, from an Australian perspective, I just can't imagine that. Like we've had politicians, not generally the prime minister, but other people, like in, you know, independent parties, in smaller position parties. They've said some crazy stuff in the past to politicians, but they're not the prime minister. They're like because we have the two main parties, but then we have a couple of smaller parties, independents. It's usually like an independent, because independents don't really care. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's a whole different arrangement. Yeah,
it's like Rand Paul can just say whatever he wants because he's not connected to any party. Do you know what I mean? So
right. There's a certain freedom in that, right? You know, but no, we've had the same thing. We've, especially in the House, we've had some House members, you know, over the years, decades, that were, you know, that have said some crazy things and this and that, but never really the president. Certainly not to the degree that Trump has, and certainly not in our memory. I often hear that in the 19th century that that there was a lot of that kind of
really
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm old, but I'm not that old, so I couldn't tell you.
No. Well,
I couldn't tell you firsthand.
I think Trump has normalized it a lot. I think to a lot degree, where I feel like everyone feels like it's going to be hard to get that back again. I don't ever think it'll go back. So the only thing I'd say is I think the benchmark before Trump was too low to get to get in trouble for a politician, and now it's way too high. Do you remember Howard Dean?
Oh my God! Right, the same.
He was like winning the primary.
Yes.
And then he did like a scream, which was nothing, right?
It was really not a big deal.
And then suddenly
done.
He lost. Yeah. So I will say that was way too low, the benchmark for, like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
But now it's gone like completely the other way. You know what I mean?
Now there's nothing at all. I mean, like literally nothing.
No. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. It is
sad
kind of
to me.
sad.
I'm like somebody who likes a little decorum. I don't. I don't want the president speaking to other countries like he's in a pro wrestling match. Do you understand?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's embarrassing. Like, I feel he embarrasses me as the man. That's how I feel.
Do you remember that NATO meeting he did, and he pushed everyone aside, and he just stood there and he went like, it was like,
right.
You know,
it's just like,
it's like any normal person would cringe at that, and know they're all laughing behind his back as well. Like, they're all laughing behind his back, right? Or the handshakes, the handshakes that he does, or like a 5-year-old trying to
and he like pulls
them in and stuff like that. It's just so weird. It's like there's nothing I think anybody would, only his own base would look at that and go, "Oh, that's a power move."
Yeah. I'm like, we just like grew up in like two different worlds. You know, like if you're looking at that and thinking that that's noble or strong or I don't like anything. It just does not.
And also,
I honestly can't name like a decent quality about him. Like I can't think of one.
No, I don't think that he has any decent qualities. Maybe occasionally, if you took away politics, he can be funny at times. Like sometimes,
he can be funny. I'll give you that. Yes.
Yeah. Like if you took away politics, sometimes like the rambling. Sometimes it's like, or the other day he was talking about the war. I know this is really dark, but then there's like a bunny rabbit next to him, and it's like what the fuck is that? And the bunny rabbit's like, what am I doing here? Like it's just like, some of the scenes can be like, funny, like, you know what I mean? Just the way he's talking. Yeah. Or when he was talking about Baghdad, I think Baghdadi or something, when he killed Baghdadi, he was like a terrorist. And he goes, he died like a dog.
Died like a dog. Yeah, he likes dogs, by the way. I mean, like that to me says a lot about.
He likes dogs. Isn't he the first president not to have a dog?
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And he just doesn't. He doesn't like them, and that says something to me.
Me too, because I love dogs. I'm a massive dog supporter.
But that's how I was right. I'm a dog person too.
That explains his liking of Kristi Noem, of course, because she doesn't. She definitely does like dogs.
Oh my god! Poor cricket. Like, I mean,
it's funny. Before I came on here, I was watching an interview with the NATO chief. I think his name Mark Rutte. Mark Rutte. He's the NATO chief. And he
right. And he called him. He's the one that called him daddy or something.
Daddy and stuff. It's embarrassing the way the NATO chief talks about Trump. He like sucks up to him, calls him daddy, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he just met with Trump this morning, or I don't know your time, yesterday, and basically he was interviewed on CNN just before I came on here, and he was just like almost apologizing for NATO not helping more during the Iran war. He goes, I understand why he was angry. I understand this. He was being interviewed by Jake Tapper, and it was like, it was the most sympathetic thing I've ever seen in my life. And then Jake said, "Oh, is he still talking about leaving NATO?" And he didn't actually answer the question. He goes, "Look, all I could say is that we should have done better. We should have done better." And I was like, "Oh my god."
When will they learn that you don't do that? He will walk all over you if you do that.
Yes.
If you stick up to him, he will crumble.
And the funny thing is, Spain is part of Spain is part of NATO, and they've been very opposite to Trump. They've said, you're not allowed to come over our airspace. You're not allowed to do any of this stuff. And it's fine if a country wants to help in that degree, like use their bases or something like that. I think there's a difference between that and using military. Do you know what I
mean? Yes. Big difference, really.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah. So I think there's a difference between that, like, and also it's an offensive thing as well, like, because you never know if Iran's going to start bombing European cities. You never know. So so they've got to defend themselves as well. So from that point of view, but the way the chief was talking about Trump, I was just going, that is the worst thing you should be doing.
Yeah, that's so embarrassing. Like somebody had said, I missed it, but said, where was it? It's repulsive.
Yeah, that's right.
It's repulsive to witness. It is.
It is. It was really cringe to watch him talk. The way he talks about, like, I don't get it, because a lot of NATO countries, of course, NATO doesn't, in reality, NATO doesn't exist without America, because it really is America, really. And I get that, there's a war in Ukraine at the moment, and they want America to continue to, they don't want them to pull out in terms of offering that. So they feel a bit wedged in. And at the same time, this, if the NATO chief starts framing this as, well, Trump was right, then that's a big problem for the rest of the world, because the rest of the world doesn't agree with that. Trump went into the war without consulting any of the NATO allies. They weren't for this war. So and then the Strait of Hormuz gets closed, and then he says, "Well, I'm going to leave and leave you guys to fix it up." He's put tariffs on the whole NATO.
Right.
He's basically he threatened Greenland and Denmark and all that. Like, are we supposed to pretend that none of that has happened? Like, it's just a weird, a weird.
Yeah. Why does he get to be the bully and
yes,
all these affronts to our allies, so many of it, but then somehow they're supposed to, for Mark Rutte to say that somehow NATO has failed America.
Yes,
well,
that's right.
I mean, it pains me to say this as an American, but we failed them first.
Yeah,
not us
right.
personally, but Trump failed them first. And so it's like what I said to you a few weeks ago. I don't blame any of you guys for not helping. Any of our allies, I don't blame them for not helping, except as we talked about, for your own self-interest. If you have to be concerned about prices, and I mean, that's completely understandable. Sometimes you have to play the game, but just, from a principled standpoint, I can understand why nobody would want to get yourself involved in that.
Exactly right. Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah. So I was also going to talk about something that might be a little bit sensitive today.
I know you want to switch to a different topic now, right?
Well, I'm worried you're going to run out of time.
Well, it's 10 of 8 here. It's 10 of 8.
Yeah.
I mean, I have time yet.
You still got time? Yep. Okay.
I still have some time. Yeah. Let's hear.
Did you want to talk a bit more about Iran and stuff, or? Yeah.
No, I think we covered Iran pretty well.
I think we covered that. Yeah. So I want to talk because the reason I want to talk about this because I know this war pretty well, and I've come a little bit from this world. So I thought, and also Joe Walsh has been talking a lot about it, and a lot of other people have been talking a lot about it, and I think it might be interesting to have a conversation about it.
Okay, let's do it.
That's true. So for people who don't know, Joe is long-winded. So yeah. So basically, I guess what I'm about to say. So I want to talk about the Democratic Party at the moment. There's a little bit of an internal conversation going on about whether they should appear on YouTubers or Twitch streamers. And one particular Twitch streamer, his name is Hassan Piker. And I don't know how many people know who he is. Maybe you don't. He's not even big on YouTube, to be honest with you. He's really big on Twitch. Twitch, for those people who don't know, is like an alternative to YouTube where people stream live all day, and they might stream for 8 or 10 hours. And it has a lot of gamers on there. So it has a lot of young gamers who do play Fortnite, and they make money out of streaming on Fortnite. So it has a young audience base. He talks a lot about that, and basically he talks a lot about that sort of stuff. And there's been a big conversation at the moment. Hassan Piker says very controversial things, and the Democratic Party, the people in the Democratic Party who've been appearing on his show, and they've basically been saying things like, you shouldn't be talking to Hassan Piker because Hassan Piker is too far left wing. He's a communist. I think he might be a communist. He's definitely a socialist from that point of view. All that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So, what do you think now? What do you think on the subject? Then I'll give you my opinion. Yeah.
So I work with Joe Walsh, and so Joe and I talk about all kinds of subjects, and we don't always agree either. He's far more pro-Israel than I am. I consider myself pro-Israel too. I always have been. But I think in this historic moment, he's much more just reflexively, pro-Israel than I would ever be. So anyway, however, the issue that Joe has with Piker, or they also call him like Hassan Abi or something like that. But anyway, maybe that's his gaming name or something.
Yeah, that
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, is that he's anti-Semitic. Right. So, and that for me is a problem because it reminds me of 2016. And I just remember the excuses people were making back then for Trump. The Republicans were making for Trump, saying, well, yeah, he's a little rough, but, and there were a million of them, right? Oh, he's better than Hillary or, but he gets things done. He's a businessman. There was a million different things. And that's the problem, though, is when you still have to have a bottom line. And when you let somebody in the door, and again, and I want to address what Mary's saying about the genocide in Gaza. I 100% agree with you, Mary.
Yeah.
I'm not saying about Piker because of him being against what Israel is currently doing in Gaza.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the undercurrent of anti-Semitism that's kind of flowing along with that.
Yeah.
And so my concern is that the Democrats are going to give credibility to people that don't really have the standards or principles that we actually have. And so therefore it can, in the end, kind of bring down the whole. So I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I probably have. I do agree with some of what you say, but I'm like, so my politics. I'm to the right of Hassan Piker. I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist.
No.
I'm like centre left. So our politics is the Lucid Hex. Hassan Piker is anti-Semite. Oh, Lucid Hex. She was going to appear on my show. She's an Aussie as well from Sydney. So now I will say this. Now I think some people, not saying you, who've commented, I've noticed commenting on people online, Hassan Piker, and that they maybe don't come from that world and have seen like, I guess I look at streamers very differently to how I look at Jake Tapper or MSNBC or the New York Times or that, because both those worlds are very different. And I would put Hassan Piker in the same category as Joe Rogan.
You would or you wouldn't? You would.
I would.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Joe Rogan has said very problematic things over the years. And there was a time when Democrats were saying, don't go on his show because you're going to normalize him, right? You're going to normalize Joe Rogan. And I can sort of understand that because during COVID, he was saying very problematic things about the vaccines that could have resulted in a lot of people dying.
Right. Put people in jeopardy.
But you could make the argument that his audience is so big that why wouldn't you want to go on there and challenge him? And you're not necessarily talking to him, you're talking to their audience. You know what I mean? So my argument would be that Hassan Piker probably, as someone who's listened to him on and off, not all the time, but more than people who've just seen clips, is there is a misunderstanding about the people like Hassan Pikers of the world, is that to them, it's not about, like, sometimes it can be conflated as anti-Semitic, and certainly I think when recently it can turn into that, it can become anti-Semitic. But generally, the point of view of people like Hassan Piker and other people I would call the far left is they don't look at it in terms of views of Israel, of Jewish people. They look at it as oppressor versus the oppressed.
Yeah.
Everything they see life through the oppressed and the oppressor. It's the same way with China, right? They look at China as being attacked by America, or they defend Cuba. Not because, I mean, there's not a big Jewish population in Cuba. But Hassan Piker went to Cuba, right? And he did a story from Cuba because why? America and the oppressed and the oppressor. With someone like Nick Fuentes, it's 100% about Jewish people, right? It's fixation, whether before October 7th as well, before October 7th, right? And he talks about the Holocaust doesn't happen, or it was exaggerated. You don't get any of that from Hassan
Piker. No, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
He's not denying the Holocaust. He's not denying any of that stuff, right? He's not like he's fixate. Now, it can verge into becoming anti-Semitism. I agree. Because when you fixate on something, and then you start going, well, everybody who is anything pro-Israel, and you're like, now you're a bad person. Or the other thing I don't also agree with is the whole AIPAC thing. I don't think, I think what AIPAC does is they find people who they already agree with, right? Who already agreed with them. And therefore you have to prove they've changed their mind. Like Ted Cruz was pro-Israel when he was 10 years of age, right? Are we supposed to say that AIPAC, he knew that AIPAC money was going to come back 30 years? You know what I mean? So
no, I know what you're saying. Like AIPAC is funding people who already agree with their agenda.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Yeah.
But when people say, you're doing it because of the money, you have to prove that they've changed their mind when they receive the money. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like oil and gas. Trump takes oil and gas money all the time. He doesn't believe in climate change. So he doesn't care about that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So,
right.
so they target him because they know he looks like that. My concern would be is if there was someone who was a Democrat or Republican who was kind of like, I don't really care about Israel. Israel can do whatever that, I'm not really a big fan. Either way, they're just neutral. And then they receive AIPAC money, and then suddenly they become the biggest supporters of Israel.
Right.
That's where I see the problem. Yeah. But you can't say they're corrupt if they already agreed with, if they already believed it. Yeah. That's just my thing. Yeah. I still think it's not.
I mean, I see your point there.
Yeah. But I think with Hassan and that is they wouldn't consider. So Nick Fuentes proclaims himself to be anti-Semitic, right? He's not yet. But
he's just right. He's just out there.
If you say that to Hassan, he gets very angry. He pushes. No, I haven't. And you will find him saying he said something about Israel being like Israelis being like grubs or something like that. But you can also see him saying that stuff about MAGA, and saying that stuff about other groups. Do you know what I mean? So it's not directed just. So I do think that the difference between Nick Fuentes and Hassan Piker is Hassan Piker is not fixated on Jews. He, at the moment, a lot of it is because of what's happening in Israel.
Because of what's happening.
But generally speaking, he was never focused on this. He's focused on, he sees America as the bad people who are going around, and he sees Israel as a proxy, and whether it's Israel, Cuba, Venezuela, any small country that America, he sees, and most of these countries have nothing to do with the Jewish population. He treats them exactly the same way. Yeah.
Fair.
But there's a higher focus at the moment on Israel because there's more happening in Israel.
Because of what's happening there. Exactly. No, and that makes sense. And I'm willing to even concede that point. I think what bothers me though is there's a radicalism about him that I think is the sort of thing that would scare some voters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And maybe I'm too much of a.
No, I agree. So this is the other thing I would say. Some people are saying they're going, oh, well, they're saying well, you hate Trump. Why would you like Hassan Piker? Now, if Hassan Piker ran for politics, I'd be 100% against him. But he's just an online streamer. And I will say this, the interesting conversation is Hakeem Jeffries was being interviewed about this the other day, and I believe him, he said, I had no idea who he was. Most of the people, Hassan Piker is on Twitch. Most people don't watch Twitch unless you're like a 21-year-old,
right?
University student who's very much, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I would not have known who he was without the political connection. Yeah.
So the Democratic establishment would have so they're getting asked these questions, and because they don't know who he is, and they're going, do you condemn him? And they're like, I don't even know who he is. Who am I
I didn't know say anything to him.
Yeah. They're like, so there is a conversation going on. I guess for me, the bigger picture is, do Democrats go on? Because I don't agree with a lot of what Hassan says. My politics is very different. So I don't think he's a liberal. He's definitely not a liberal. I think he, in fact, at the last election, he was sort of saying there's no difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, which for me is a big issue, right? because
that's the problem I have too.
Yeah, and the basis was Israel, right? The basis was Israel, right?
Right.
And so I think the problem with someone like Hassan is that in America, so what would happening in Australia is because we have ranked choice voting, Hassan Piker would have another political party to get behind. You know what I mean? And that would probably be the Greens in our country. They get about 10%.
That makes sense. Yeah,
and he would jump to the Greens, and then the Labor Party, would be left alone. But Hassan Piker, the Greens don't really do anything in America, so he's forced to go to the Democrats. And then what happens is you have a whole bunch of ultra left people trying to change the Democratic Party because they don't have any other options. You know what I mean? If you had ranked choice voting, you could have these other fringe parties where they could go, you know what? I'm not even going to pretend to be a Democrat. I'm just going to go for this other party. And then it could be more honest because one of the things I didn't like about Hassan Piker is he said, I have to pretend, because he said this on a stream. The great thing about when someone streams 8 hours a day is that it's hard to hide a lot because you just talk constantly. Yeah. Is he said he was talking to someone else and he's talking about how he doesn't really think of himself as a Democrat, a Democrat Party. So he said basically what I have to do is when I go on, because he's been on CNN, he's been interviewed by New York Times, all this sort of stuff, right? And he said when I go on those shows, I have to hide who I really am because I can't shoot that into their veins because they wouldn't like it. The Hassan Piker thing all started when Trump won, and everyone was going, it's all about Joe Rogan. And so everyone started looking for the Joe Rogan of the left. And then CNN, 2 months after they lost the election, did a story on Hassan Piker. And they went to his, and they said, is this the Joe Rogan of the left? So mainstream media went looking for him. And you know why? Because of the way he looks. Have you seen how he looks? He's
I've seen him.
He works out. He's got a good body. He's a good looking guy. And a lot of times people they think about the right with buff guys. Joe Rogan, he's not a great looking guy, but he does MMA. Right. He's buff. Right. So now a lot of people.
The alpha male thing.
The alpha male. So they're like, wait a second. Here's this alpha male, but he's from the left. And so they started elevating him without really knowing what his real politics was about, right? Because he can be two different things to two different people. And he's also, believe it or not, very woke. He's very pro-gay. He's very pro-trans. He's very pro all that sort of stuff. So, and so therefore, they're like, oh, he's woke. He's like very he's always defending trans people. He says the Democrats don't defend trans people enough, all that sort of stuff. So therefore but he's also buff. And it was that, you know what I mean?
Right. That sort of dichotomy. It's sort of attractive, I think, in this cultural moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's how he got elevated. And now we're talking about it because he was elevated by, and I don't actually, to be honest with you, I don't think the New York Times or CNN really the people who work there, I don't think they understand this world. Yeah. I think they're more like,
I think you're probably right. I think that like sometimes when I find out how many followers some of these younger people have on TikTok, like millions, and I'm like, I've never even heard of this person, and they're having a gigantic impact on millions of people. And there's that sort of break, between where we're seeing, like you have legacy media like the New York Times, and then you have somebody like this that's known within an entire cultural niche, but for the general public is not known. No. And I just want to address something that somebody asked because it was a very good question. Someone said something like, do you mean like scare people off like the Black Panthers? And I want to be like cautious the way I say this, but not just cautious. I want to be like truthful about how I'm saying this. Yeah. I think what I mean is that I think somebody like him could bring in a segment of voters, the ones that actually that used to call Biden Genocide Joe, and actually do think that Kamala would have been as bad as Trump, which I think is insane, but okay.
Yeah, I agree.
He could bring in those kind of voters. I agree. Yes. I guess my question is, would that offset the amount of voters that might be turned off by a and we're talking about in a general election. I'm talking about in a general election. I'm not talking about in certain areas. Certain areas, go for it. I don't care. If you have a very left area, do whatever do whatever you want. Everybody should do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a general election, would that, because the Republicans are going to use it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know how effectively they used the trans issue. And it wasn't fair at all. It was not fair at all. But boy, it worked. They talked about, trans women in sports. It was maybe affected a dozen people across the country, if that.
No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Right. To me, that's an issue for athletic directors. I don't care what that's not for the president. That's not even something we should be debating. But that's what I worry about, because the Republicans are so good at turning that stuff around. That's, I guess, my concern. I'm just looking to win right now.
So I agree. I agree with you. Now, I will say this. I don't think. I think. Do you remember Donald Trump? You had Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and all these people sort of on that right who were criticizing him, and he sent a post and he said, "These people don't have as much influence as they think they do." I think he was right. I think a lot of the online people don't have as much influence as people think they do. The amount of people who I know outside of the internet who know who any of these people are is close to zero. Yeah. But if you're online, they're very well known online.
Yes.
I mean? So
it's like two different worlds.
It's like, hi, Bob. Good to see you, Bob. So we're living in like a type of echo chamber where there's like the online world and then there's the offline world. Now, what I mean by the offline world is those people are still online, but they're not online politically. They're watching TikTok videos with dancing people. You know what I mean? They're not. They're not online when it comes to politics, right?
They're not politically right. They're not on
like Twitter. So I think they're the majority of the people. I think they're the majority of people. So Trump was actually right when he said back then. I don't think Hassan is that influential as influential he does. I think he's been pushed up by mainstream media who either want to say that he's the Joe Rogan of the left, or turn it into a controversy about going on his show. I don't think it would be as effective for Trump or MAGA to go after him because Trump went on Alex Jones' show, right? And he's about as extreme as you can get. But
they don't care.
Yeah, I know, but I would just say, like, I don't think that. No, but just in terms of effectiveness, I think the conversation has moved away from purity tests when it comes to who you go on their show. I think it's moved away a little bit from that because, as I said, Joe Rogan was completely considered out of bounds, but now everyone, even the Democrat establishment, is like, you got to go on that show. Yeah, and it's not.
You got to talk to people that aren't just like you.
Exactly.
You're never going to persuade or move people otherwise.
Yeah. So I would separate. So if I was a Democratic politician, I wouldn't be going around campaigning with him. I wouldn't let him campaign.
That's my concern. That's my only concern.
But I would go on his show to talk to his audience. Yeah.
That's now there is a fair balance, I think. That's where I think I have problems is when he's at campaign events with people.
Yeah. And
that's different.
Because you look at Zohran, so I would say probably Zohran Mandami's politics is not that dissimilar to Hassan Piker's to some degree, except Zohran Mandami is a lot more of a pragmatist than Hassan Piker, and he's more of a politician, right? So if you look at Zohran Mandami, things he said before he got into politics, it's a very different Zohran Mandami, right?
It is.
But Hassan Piker is. I don't know how pragmatic he is, but again, I look at Hassan as only as a sort of a pipeline to get to his audience, because young people who voted for Jill Stein in the Greens, they were a problem in Dearborn, I think if he can get to them, and I wouldn't throw Israel under the bus. I would say, look, if you still support Israel, I'd say, look, I think a lot of Americans, it's a middle ground. It's not, it's not let's destroy the Zionist state, and it's not let's let Bibi do whatever he wants. I think most people are in the middle.
That I think that is where the majority of Americans
Yes.
probably are that actually pay attention to this.
Yes.
Obviously, I look at it almost like I look at Netanyahu's Israel the way I look at Trump's America. I don't support what Trump is doing.
No.
But it doesn't mean I don't support America, and I think it should just not exist. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like, so I don't like Netanyahu. I don't know. I don't like him. He's a criminal as far as I'm concerned.
I think
he is, right?
Well.
So, but
and he's definitely done war crimes. He's definitely done
exactly
war crimes. At the minimum, he's done war crimes.
Bribery and within his own country.
Yeah.
So, like, so I that's kind of where I'm, and I think at least just from the feeling I get, so that's not, that's no expert opinion, but like, I think that there's definitely less support for Israel in the United States than there once was, for sure.
Yes.
That's dropped,
yes.
and that's understandable.
100%.
Just like support for America around the world has dropped. Understandable. But I don't know that it's like bottomed out, like that's it, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But
exactly. And I feel the same way. Even to go to the absolute extremes, I would say North Korea. I feel sorry for the people of North Korea. I feel
I feel sorry for the pro-democracy Iranians. You know what I mean?
Pro-democracy Iranians. Yeah, exactly.
Right. The ones who were, that were protesting and stuff like that. Russians. Any country.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you can separate the government from the people.
Exactly.
Definitely. In this situation. Yeah. And I think,
I did want to just address one question because I like this one. M. Hope said, how do you feel about courting the Republicans? It also pushes many away. And I think that's absolutely right. Kamala really did. And a lot of the people I work with were part of Republicans for Harris. I did not work for Republicans for Harris, but a lot of the people I work with. And I think that probably maybe had more of a negative impact than positive.
Yes, I agree. The Liz Cheney thing.
They turned her into they turned Kamala into Dick Cheney.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
When she was walking around with Liz Cheney and doing stuff, I was like, oh, please. You know what I was thinking at the time? I was thinking, they must know better than I do. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking they would have like strategists around them, and they're doing this because they know something. But my instincts were, this was a really bad idea, because then basically Trump turned Kamala into George W. Bush, and it became like 2016 again, when Kamala was now Ted Bush, Ted or Ted Cruz, or Jed Bush, or Ted Cruz, and he was the outsider again. He was the outsider going, oh,
exactly,
people, stuff like that. Yeah,
they painted her both as radical left and also an
establishment. Yeah, I know.
So like she couldn't win. So that was so. I kind of agree with you, M. Hope, that that does. I don't think that should be an explicit part of any campaign. Certainly not in 2028. I don't.
Yeah, and the other thing is they would call her a warmonger, but also say she was too weak.
Exactly. They would talk about how she owns everything that Biden did for the last 4 years. Well, first of all, we all know that vice presidents really don't have very much power at all.
No,
and I would say to people sometimes on Twitter, I would say, so I guess then that all the good things that happened in your perspective from 2017. 2021 under Trump, we should really give Pence credit for that. Is that what you're trying to say? It was really Pence.
Exactly.
And then they didn't know what to say to that. So
it's been quite interesting watching so much of Trump's support has come from the old Republican establishment. Like, John Bolton's coming out supporting him, Mike Pence coming out supporting him for the war in Iran. All these people have come out. Mark Levine, there's some of the old establishment have sort of come out.
Yeah, the sort of Reagan-esque, more
Reagan-esque,
because they've always hated Iran. You know what I mean? That's always been like, Do you remember John McCain used to sing? He went on SNL.
John McCain. Yeah. So it's a weird thing because
Beach Boys song.
At the same time, they think they were never Trumpers to some degree, and then but on foreign policy, they seem to like him a little bit on foreign policy, not completely, but some on foreign policy. It's a bit of a strange
Mixed bag.
because he got voted in being against these people. It was like, oh, these, so
Yeah.
these
Strange bedfellows all around, really. I mean, it's it's kind of strange.
I think the biggest thing they disliked about him was his authoritarian thing, and also not conceding the election, that sort of stuff. But
of course,
I think a lot of them, his 2016, 2020, I think there's a lot of Republicans who didn't think it was that bad, except for the mean tweets. So yeah,
I think it's kind of like what we've seen with foreign countries. They're happy to use Trump as a vehicle to get what they need. Like they'll just they've almost taken this kind of fatalistic view that like we're stuck with him. There's nothing we can do. So we're going to just do what we can to get what we need and just be happy when occasionally maybe something we like happens. I don't see anybody can be happy with, like, I understand that Iran's been a bad guy for a long, long time. I'm certainly not, almost my entire life, I'm certainly not disagreeing with that. And we won't even get into the history of how like that kind of ended up was our fault in a sense. But disregarding all of that, I don't see how you see this as successful in any way right now. Like, even if you were pro, let's attack Iran, even if you're for war in Iran, I don't see how you could support how it's been conducted.
No, I don't think so either. And also, if you wanted to support the people of Iran who want to go against him, I also think they put a lot of people in Iran in danger, not just by bombing them, but also by saying, they kept saying to rise up to the people. Now's your chance, rise up. Yet bombing a country is not going to overthrow a regime where you have a whole infrastructure of people. This is not Venezuela, and they're asking people to rise up, but it's not like Iraq where they had troops on the ground. You know what I mean? Bombing is not. I mean, so they could have got killed themselves by bombs. So
absolutely,
it's a very strange thing because I think it's I think it was really it was. I can't believe that. I can't think of another American government who said to a regime to rise up like that, and then put their own lives in peril. Yeah. I think they're doing it because Trump thinks rise up because then you'll make me look better. Do you know what I mean? Because then we can do like, oh, I helped them.
I absolutely think that's it. Because you have to remember, Trump thinks in just two things.
Yes.
Ego or profit, or both.
Yeah.
And exactly. So that's it. That's the only way he makes decisions. And I think that you're right on the nose with that the reason he said, so that he can look like a freedom fighter.
Yeah, like
and get that somehow, maybe get that peace prize he wants so much.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all it is with him.
I think so, because I think he would then say, look, in Iraq they had to put troops on the ground to overthrow the government. All we did was bomb. We didn't have to, and we still, you know what I mean? So it's like there'd be like that great comparison, but they're throwing the Iranian people under the bus. Yeah, because if you don't, I'm not saying you should have boots on the ground, but it's a regime change in a country like Iran is not going to happen without boots on the ground. I just don't think it's going to happen. So you're telling people to commit suicide. So I think that's a really awful thing that he was doing when they kept saying that. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? That it kind of is a similar. Well, it's not similar because we're not Iran over here in the United States. But I have seen people online too say, "Well, Americans, why aren't you standing up? Why aren't you doing something about your government?" And I think that other people do not realize just how difficult, and it shouldn't be, but just how difficult it is in this very partisan country that's got the strongest military on the planet to actually rise up against, you know what I mean, outside of voting.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to make excuses because I understand their frustration.
No, exactly.
But it's not.
Exactly, 100%. You can't just, you can't just rise up against the government because I mean, in America's case, there's still options that are
Yeah.
beyond. There's still
Right.
it's you can still vote him out. You know, there's still the
Hopefully.
midterms. Hopefully, there's still the midterms. The courts to some degree are holding him back. I think.
Yeah. No, they are.
Yeah,
The courts have been good
they're holding
for
him
the
back,
most part.
and he's up to this stage. He's listening to the courts, like
That's
yeah,
right.
which
We
is
do. We rise
I
up.
think
Yes.
yeah. So I think America's doing as much as it can under those circumstances. Yeah,
Exactly. But the
because
impression I've gotten from some people at times was they expect us to
yeah, I
show
know.
the White House.
I
I'm like,
agree. I think America's doing what it can at the moment, and if it did too much, like it got violent or something, that would have the opposite effect. It would
exactly.
it would make
He'll declare
the
martial law.
defense. Yeah, you would become the bad people, and Trump would become the good person.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Then we would become the insurrectionists.
You would
know what I
become the
mean? We would
insurrectionists.
be
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the January 6th. I know that sounds
yeah,
horrible because we like to think that we're on the side of democracy and all.
yeah.
But yeah, like we still believe in our in our system
Yes,
and working within the system. And so, we have to abide by that and hope that we
yeah,
still have enough,
exactly.
gas left in the tank to
At
make
least up until now, it's working within the system. Like he's listening to the courts. He's not defying the Supreme Court.
right.
He's not. You know what I mean? So there's enough. Because if he was not doing any of that, it would be like a different situation where or instead of threatening Greenland, he actually went into Greenland. Like we would be talking about a very different
Yeah.
situation. As I said,
Yes.
Taco is his only good quality.
There you go again. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. It is.
Yeah.
It's he's all talk
Yeah, he's all, and which is good.
except when it comes to ice. Then ice
except
is
when it comes to ice. Yeah.
He'd rather
But
attack us.
even then, I feel like he got some of the people. He got some of the
He did.
ice people
Snow's
out.
gone.
It did come down a little bit.
Reno's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Christy
They
Knight's
left
gone.
Minneapolis. Well,
Stephen Miller is kind of gone away a little bit. I don't see him very often these
he's
days.
quieter. Yeah.
He's gone very quiet. Yeah. I think the thing is, when governments win by what they think is it wasn't a landslide, but to them, they won the 7 swing states, I think sometimes this can be not just a Trump administration, is they can start to feel they can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? And they become arrogant, and then there's always the backlash. Do you know what I mean? And and it's funny that keeps happening a lot, and then the backlash. I was thinking about, did you see that J.D. Vance went to Hungary to campaign for Viktor Orban?
I like.
Yeah,
you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. It was incredible because, like, Viktor Orban to me, when people talk about it, people talk about Trump. If I was to put the closest authoritarian to him, it would probably be Viktor Orban.
Yeah, I think that's a very good
Viktor Orban.
Yeah.
Like Hitler would just, if Hitler was going to invade Greenland, he would just do it. There would be no Tucker. Do you know what I mean? He would just, he would do everything he says, right?
He would just do whatever. Yeah.
Viktor Orban became an authoritarian by doing a lot of same things Trump did, which is using the courts.
Exactly.
Using existing systems that were already in place.
Yeah.
And then cutting down on the media and things like that and stuff like that. So I think the model for Trump or MAGA was Viktor Orban. I think he's the model. And that's why JD, and this is the worst part about it, is there is currently about to be an election in Hungary, and he looks like he's a bit behind. So JD Vance goes to campaign on his behalf, right? And then Russia sends someone to campaign on behalf of Viktor Orban. So you have Russia and America on the same side.
Supporting the same, right.
Yeah, helping Viktor Orban win an election, right, that is insane.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me because they have they're all authoritarians. Trump is an authoritarian. Viktor Orban is authoritarian. So is Trump. So is So it's Putin. So yeah, but the fact that you have two Russia and America campaigning for the same candidate is like, I don't know. Have you ever seen that before? I don't know if I've seen that before. Yeah, yeah.
No,
Usually,
I doubt it, and I feel like
yeah,
if you went back in time to when we were growing up, it would have been almost unbelievable. Like, it would just we wouldn't
yeah.
have believed it.
Like in
And I know
Ukraine,
things change, but unfortunately
it's awful because in Ukraine, when they had elections, it was America would back the European candidate and Russia would back the Eastern candidate, right? That was always in that country, right?
exactly.
And now we're finding ourselves backing the Russian candidate.
Yeah,
Like, and Viktor Orban is actually anti being involved in the war in Ukraine as well. So, yeah, yeah.
that's
It's,
interesting.
yeah. It is a mind-boggling that JD Vance is over there. And by the way, JD Vance, the person who goes around the world berating other countries, Western countries, for not being free speech enough,
Yeah.
is now campaigning for someone who is really anti-free speech
Well,
in Hungary. Yeah,
exactly, and that's a point I made earlier too on notes. I was
yeah,
saying that it's funny that these guys, they specifically use the rhetoric of Western civilization too, that we're trying to say
yes,
Western civilization. And you hear that a lot of times with Yarvin and all those kind of like,
yeah,
type that but some of the greatest gifts of
yeah,
Western civilization are the things they're
yeah,
trying to be.
yeah.
The
That's
the
right. Yeah,
liberal values of
yeah,
equality and pluralism and
yeah,
and open debate, freedom of speech, and all of those things that
yeah.
Western civilization helped
Create.
bring
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
about are the things they want to get rid of.
yeah. I
Like, it
agree.
doesn't make any sense.
There's a weird situation where they're like having two different arguments at the same time, but they think it's the same argument, which is they're against liberalism, they're anti-liberal, anti sort of Western. Well, I think they're anti-modern Western culture. I think they like old, like they want to go back to a different time. Um, and they look at countries like, I don't know, the UK, Australia, France, and those countries as being more of an enemy. And they look at countries like Hungary, which is not a liberal democracy at all, as part of, and I think a lot of it's based around, for JD Vance, a lot of it's based around religion.
Oh
And
yes.
yeah, and culture wars and all that sort of stuff.
It's
Like,
cultural.
yeah,
Hmm.
they love the fact that Putin wasn't very woke and he went after gay. You know what I mean? Like he was
Yep.
anti woke and he was a traditionalist, and he always talks about the church and man and woman and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's why Tucker Carlson also likes Russia as well. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I think it's less about political ideology as it is about these cultural issues that they
yes,
see as sort of overriding everything else. So
exactly.
that if we lose the culture, then none of
Yeah,
this will matter. The Constitution won't matter. This is the way they think. It's not what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
Constitution won't matter. None of it will matter. And so we have to
yes,
sort of put aside the Constitution for a while and actually,
yes,
you know, um, i- become more like what were traditionally our enemies
yes,
in order to
yeah,
save ourselves. I think
exactly.
I mean, from all the things I've read from these guys
Yeah,
and all that to be what they
yeah,
believe. And I mean,
yeah.
how do you answer that? How do you argue with people who think that they're trying to, that God is on their side to save?
Yeah, it's a very
Like,
hard thing to it's a very hard thing to argue against. I mean, James Tallarico, the Democrat candidate, he's
Texas.
very religious, right?
Yeah.
But he's also going around talking about
Very
saying
progressive.
we need to go back to separation of church and state, which is one of the reasons I love him, because he went on Joe Rogan, he went on other shows, and he said we need to have, and the fact that he's religious and saying that, like if someone like me who's an atheist says that, people just go, well, you're an atheist, you know
Okay,
what I
well,
mean?
of course. Yeah.
So of course you do, you want
No,
to
it needs
bring
to
hate,
come
you want,
from Christian.
yeah. But it's coming from someone who's
It,
very, very, he's very religious. I think he's a
exactly.
pastor. Oh, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so he's got the ear of people who are Christian, but he's also saying separation in church and state. So it has a lot more, um, you know, gravitas because it's coming from someone like him. And
Yes,
that's why
I
I
agree.
really like him, because I don't hear a lot of conversations about separation of church and state anymore. Um, it's
No, but they need to come back.
Yeah, I think we need to have. It's like
They
we
need to
have
come back.
America who's talking
Yeah.
like Middle Eastern countries. Like where everything is based on religion.
Yeah.
And not,
Yeah.
like the way Trump talks, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, JD Vance. It's very alarming for a country
Oh,
that's
extremely. I mean, like, I don't really go to church or anything, but I'm still a Catholic.
yeah,
Yeah, like you. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
I
yeah,
went to Catholic school and I stayed Catholic, But like
yeah,
I don't I wouldn't say I practice on the regular, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like I like even didn't go on Easter or any of that.
Do you
But
go to
I still
confession? Do you ever
consider
go to
myself a
confession?
Catholic philosophically. What's that?
Do you go to confession
Oh God,
or
no, I haven't been in
no?
confession in
Yeah.
25 years probably.
When I was they used to because I went. My parents were very religious, they sent me to Catholic schools.
Yeah.
I had to go to confession twice a week. So
Wow.
I remember being 8 years old or 10 years old and going to confession twice a week
What do
and
you have
saying
to confess?
I would make. You know what I would say? I would
You
make
make stuff up?
and then the next time I came, I would say, last time where I told you I lied to my parents. Well, I lied to you. I didn't actually lie to my parents.
Oh
And so
my
I'd have this revolving thing where I would just, because I was 10 years old, I didn't have anything to lie about,
Yeah,
and you had to
right.
make
What
it,
do you
yeah, yeah, and you had to make it a small lie because they make you say more Hail Marys the bigger the lie
Yes.
it is. So I
Yeah.
worked out if you say lying was like at the bottom, so it'd be like one Hail Mary. But if you said something else, it'd be like 10. So I just came in with rehearsed,
Well, you
yeah,
you have to hear this story. One time when I
yeah,
was probably around the same age, 9 or 10,
yeah,
went to confession because they took us at school, we went.
yeah.
And I didn't really have
Form
much to
stuff.
say. So we had
Yeah,
missed mass one week because we had a terrible blizzard. And
yeah,
my dad didn't go to church, which is my mom. And she was like, I'm
yeah,
not driving in this blizzard. I'm too afraid. So we didn't go. So
yeah,
we missed mass. So like I went to confession and I thought, well, I have to say something. So I said, well, I missed
yeah,
mass. So
yeah,
then the priest says, did you go to communion the following week? And so
yeah,
here I am thinking, oh yes, I did. I went to communion, Father. Don't worry. The following week I went. And then he
yeah,
reached me out because I didn't go to confession first before having communion.
yeah,
Would you know? And I was so embarrassed because like all my friends were there in line waiting
yeah,
to go, and I came out and I had just been yelled at. Everybody could hear it. And do you know that
yeah.
priest turned out to be one of those abusers years later?
Oh my God, really? Oh,
And he's yelling at me, 9 years old, missing mass. Can
oh
you
my
believe it?
God,
Yes.
that is so bad. Yeah. Oh, that's
Horrible.
awful. Yeah.
Horrible.
The funny thing is, I'm not funny, but we had the same thing in our country because it was a Catholic church all around the world. That was, that they
That
were
was
all doing.
affected. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I was lucky. All the schools I went to, and all the interactions I had, I never experienced anything like that. In fact, even though I'm an atheist, I had a good time at my Catholic schools, and I
Me
the
too.
the only thing I didn't like about it that I wouldn't give to my kids is I think it's better for kids to go to co-ed schools so they're around other sexes. Do you know what I mean? That's my opinion because then they have maybe more relationships with the opposite sex. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
not like they're just around men all the time or just around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No,
uh,
I hear you.
yeah. So that was my only thing. But
Well,
I had,
well, what about
yeah,
early years though? Wasn't that mixed? Or were
yeah.
you
Actually,
different
it
schools
was
even in the early years?
my primary school was mixed. You're right. Yeah, it was when I went to high school. But
Yeah, same here.
our high school starts at like you're 12 or 13 years of age. Yeah, yeah. We don't have a middle school. So it's like
Okay.
primary school, which is like kindergarten to year 7. So year 6. And then from year 7 to year 12, which is end of high school, that's
Okay.
high school. So we don't have any middle. So it's 2 schools. You go to 2 schools. Yeah.
So our Catholic schools are like that. It's just 2.
Oh,
You go
right. Yeah.
from kindergarten to 8th grade, then 9th grade to 12th grade is high school. So
Right.
it's different than the public schools because the public schools there's like 3. There's
Yeah.
there's elementary, middle school, high school. Most
Yeah.
places, not always, but most places.
Yeah.
So, but the Catholic schools are only 2. So that's kind of similar to my experience too. And then
Similar.
the high schools all girls.
Yeah.
I liked
Yeah.
it, but I wanted boys to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, I was lucky that I had where I lived. I had a lot of female friends in my neighborhood, so
Yeah.
I had a very social neighborhood where we all sort of hung out after school.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but
good.
I did go to school with a couple of guys who didn't know a lot of women except their mothers, and they were like socially awkward people. And I feel like being in just a guy school made it worse
Yes.
because they it wasn't until
No
they got
options.
older,
Yeah,
and
no
then
opportunities.
and then they married the first woman they were slept with because they thought
That's like I think that's a line from Ferris
Yeah.
Bueller, like, because she'll be the
Ferris Bueller.
be all end all.
Yeah. It is because they don't think there's going to be another opportunity. They
They're
think it's
right.
like,
So just
yes, this is it.
grab it while you
I
can.
better take this opportunity by the yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't hate even though I'm an atheist. I don't hate didn't hate my Catholic upbringing at all.
Yeah,
My
no,
parents
I
were
actually really loved it. A lot of good friends, and
were
you
your
know, that
parents
like mine wasn't very
yeah.
super strict. Like if
Oh,
you're,
yeah.
you know what I mean. It was like I don't know, maybe because we're in the Northeast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Northeast part of the country is a little bit more liberal. I think it's not like we were in the South. Like I think Catholics in the South are almost like evangelicals. They're much more.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're more fundamentalist types, but like we're more like social justice Catholics up
Yeah.
neck of the woods.
I always saw in Australia Catholics are considered more left wing.
Yeah.
Because they're very much they're about the poor. Well, supposed to be, but
Right. We were for labor and all that. The
Labor.
only thing
That's
that really
right.
divided Catholics was abortion.
That's right.
That was what really turned a lot of Catholics towards
Right.
the Republican Party.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But a lot of the Labor stuff, like you said, they were involved in fact, our Labor Party, which is our centre-left party, had a big influence from the Catholic churches in the earlier stages because they when we had strikes, work strikes, they actually helped out the people who are on strike with money and food and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the nuns that ran my high school were actually very progressive. Like they had, like at their mother house, like they had a home where they had a wing where they took care of like homeless mothers and children, and then they would give shelter to illegal immigrants. You know, they actually fought for illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants now to get driver's licenses and stuff, and that actually became a law. And then like you know, like they were very progressive. They were really you know, not what you think of, I think, when some people think of Catholic school, you know.
No.
You know,
Joe
it's a good
Biden
experience.
was a strong Catholic, wasn't he? Like Joe Biden and his family were.
Joe. Yeah.
John F.
Well, and
Kennedy.
he was from Delaware, which is really right near Philly. So like he's like the local boy, really, almost, you know. Yeah.
The Kennedys were Catholics, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
First Catholic president. Yep. Mm-hmm.
First Catholic president. So there've been some good Catholics. Yeah. There've been some good Catholics. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you also have a bunch of them on the Supreme Court that.
Yeah. And then you had all the child molester type people as well. But yeah, I don't think that was a Catholic thing. I think that was just an opportunist thing. They just found that was.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because you also see that with a lot of youth pastors and stuff that aren't
and
Catholic
some teachers.
you know, Christian sects or whatever.
The Scouts and things
Scouts, like that. Right. Anywhere where you have, you know, adults that can spend have a lot of proximity and access to kids on their own. Yes. And unfortunately, it attracts sick people to take advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I'm running out.
The worst thing is with the Catholic Church is that part of their job was to like moralize against other people. Do you know what I mean? Like that was like you know, it's like they're doing that, but they're moralizing against. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean about the guy in the confessional with me years ago. Like you're yelling at a little kid about missing mass in a snowstorm, but meanwhile you're going after all toys. Like
I know, and then like also like I know it was just I can't.
It's sick. It's just disgusting. I mean, it really is. I'm running out.
That news story by I think it was the Boston Globe.
I'm going offline for 1 second. Just like I'll still be on. Like I just have to turn my camera off for a sec.
Yeah. The Boston Globe story from the newspaper was absolutely amazing. It was one of my favorite stories. Thank you, Melissa and Joe. Appreciate your insights. Oh, thank you, M Hope. We just got a great compliment from M Hope. She's been amazing. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Sandra, for some of your comments as well before, and Kimmy and everyone. We appreciate a lot of that. I think it's good to be sort of interactive, isn't it? with the chat. Yeah, yeah. Because the people listening are also outsiders as well. Yeah, we're all outsiders. Yeah. But yeah, and it's but yeah, I think that Boston Globe story about the Catholic Church was a great story and shows that mainstream media can be really positive, and a really good thing as well. Sandra, I love listening to you both. Oh, thanks. That's Sandra. That says me, but that's Sandra. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. She's yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Did you have anything else you want to talk about? Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can you hear Melissa? I can't hear you. Can everyone hear Melissa?
My audio's on.
Oh no, it's working now.
You can't hear
It's
me?
working. Yeah, I can. Now I can.
Oh, now you can. Okay, good, good,
Actually,
good.
thumbs down because of Project Hail Mary. Did you see that movie? Project Hail Mary? No.
I'm struggling to hear you though now, Joe.
Oh, you can't hear me.
I think it's my
Wow.
phone. My phone is dying, and so like I just plugged it in and it's charging, but I feel like for some reason it affected my like volume.
Can you hear me now or not? You can't hear me?
I mean, I can hear you, just it's very faint. That's all.
Very faint. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm like trying to come up close to the phone.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Did you have anything you want to talk about, Melissa?
Well, I'm thinking since I'm having struggles here with my tech that maybe I'll just I'll probably sign off now.
Yeah, so that's probably a good idea. We did like an hour. Did we do like an hour and 40 minutes? Like an hour?
Yeah.
45
Something
minutes.
like
That's
that,
pretty good.
right? Yeah.
Pretty good.
It went quick though.
Yeah, yeah. And just so everyone knows, we're gonna do this like once every couple of weeks or something, aren't we? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hi Tamara. Thanks, Tamara. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. It's good talking to you.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.